All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Boiling Point. I am your host, JD. I am joined on this episode by Jordan, JMC. Glad to have you back. This is episode 25 now. We're going to call this the quarterback discussion because one of the things we are going to talk about is going to be one of Jordan's favorite topics to talk about, Tom Brady. And we're going to talk about some of the playoff teams. Jordan, I'm glad you were finally able to get a break in your schedule so we could have you back on the show again.
Yeah, man, I love doing the show with you. It's hard to wrestle me down and get our schedules to link up, but I'm always happy to do it whenever we're available, man. And let's not just gloss over the fact that we're playing each other in the fantasy Super Bowl right now.
That is
I don't
true.
want to talk. I don't want to talk much about it. I'm not very happy with Kyler Murray right now, but it's been a good year, and your team's been great the whole time. So I figured it was going to be you in the end anyway. So I can't be too disappointed.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy to finally get a Super Bowl championship in my own league. That was definitely something that was lacking, so I'm definitely going to be glad to get it. Of course, if I get it, the game's not over. We still got a lot of football, a lot of players left to play for both of us. So, yeah, we got a ways to go.
Well, as you know, we have a quarterback-heavy league, as it should be, because no one affects the game more than that position, which we'll talk about. But you drafted well. You drafted the best offensive powerhouse. Pretty much pilfered their top three guys on the best team in the league, one of the best offenses of all time. So kudos to you. You drafted well. I love my team all around, but man, it's a tall mountain to climb. But we'll see. And if you win, you deserve it. So it's all good.
I appreciate that, and I'm glad to face you because you and I were pretty much well, except for Matt's team, who I don't think I can remember the name of right now. What? Oh, he's got the Eagle haters, I think. That's what his team is. Yeah, the Eagle haters. So between him, you, and I, that we were the three top in the league. But you managed to get the division win. I think you were the division winner, weren't you?
Yeah, you had the most points overall. I had the most points against by a lot because I was getting smacked, and like a lot of that was the first time you played my team and put up like over some. I stopped even looking. Like I was like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah,
But yeah,
something 190 some points, I think.
oh my god, yeah, I've never even seen that before. But yeah, so I think I got the overall number one seed, the division win, but you got the most points, which so that pretty much tells you who the best teams are. There weren't any bad teams in the league this year, but there was definitely people who, like myself, who took it way too seriously, as I do with every fantasy game. So,
Yeah, yeah, that does happen. We have passionate people in our league. So we'll see how many are coming back next year, but we always have it every year. We got teams. I got people who are lined up who want to come back in the league. So assuming everybody does come back the next year, we'll be back to 10 teams anyway.
that makes it a lot better. But it's cool. It was cool. I was just happy to have football at all this year, dude.
Yeah.
So happy to have fantasy football at all too. And a lot of people are hating on wrestling and the NFL and every sport in general. Like, oh, it's not the same with fans. Well, would you rather have nothing? So I don't know. I think it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, the football I could deal without. I mean, I'm glad that they've toned down the crowd noise in some of the football games. It's not so loud and prevalent like it was. They really brought it down, which I kind of like. They almost made it like white background noise, the way a crowd normally is. The only time you really hear crowds really get loud is when something crazy happens anyway, or there's a score or something, a big play. So I like that they kind of brought it back down because I thought it was just too fake when they had the volume turned up and they were trying to make it like where it was competing with the others. I'm like, no, just turn that off. We want to give us the opportunity to hear the players on the field. Actually, that's kind of what I liked about it, was giving us an opportunity to hear the way the quarterbacks call out the plays and the way the defense calls audibles or whatever. I thought that was pretty cool to actually hear them and get to see some of that.
Yeah, that made it. If you have that aspect of the game that you don't normally have, you might as well accentuate what you do have and kind of hide what you don't. But it was weird the first several games of the year, like they'd catch a 5-yard screen pass and the crowd would lose their minds. So it was like kind of bizarre. But
Yeah, with no fans in the stands, they were losing their minds. That's what made it weird. And I mean, I like what AEW is doing with the wrestling. I don't care about the WWE and their Thunderdome with all their TVs so that they can be seen on TV. I think that's some crazy nonsense. But the AEW, they've been allowing, because they're in Florida, so they're allowed to have some fans in. So they usually let them in just very sporadically. I think there's only like a few thousand fans in a stadium that can take like 50,000 or something like that. There's only a few thousand. And then they also have the wrestlers lined up around the ring too to cheer. And I thought that was pretty cool. They have the heels all on one side, all the faces on the other side. And I thought that was pretty cool that they did that as well.
Yeah, AEW's been great. And a lot of people will not like this, but I think not overall, but a lot of WWE stuff has been good too. There's been really good segments. It's just when there's a 3-hour show and 45 minutes is good, it's exhausting. But yeah, AEW doing well, man. AEW's been really, really good.
And my favorite wrestler,
all things considered.
My favorite wrestler just came back to AEW when he retired from the WWE. I didn't think he was going to be. He said he was retiring, and the way he said it, his catchphrase was always, the only for sure thing about the Stinger is that nothing's for sure. And he said that at his retirement speech, he said the only thing at his retirement speech, he said, the only thing for sure about the Stinger is that nothing's for sure except this. And I always knew that was the way his retirement speech would go. He would use his catchphrase, and then he would say, wait, except for this, my retirement is real. I'm going to be done with wrestling. He wasn't going to like fake retire and everybody guess, oh, maybe he can come back. Maybe he can come back. But then here he did. He still came back anyway. I'm telling you, man, that DDP yoga is crazy stuff. That's saving wrestlers' lives with DDP yoga.
I actually own some of the DVDs, and it is really, really good. And it's amazing what it has done for a lot of people. And apparently, I don't know if you heard this, because I just saw it today or yesterday. Sting announced that he's going to be on the show on Dynamite, but he's going to do entirely cinematic matches because he wants to preserve his legacy, which I actually applaud him for that. Not that he still couldn't go and do a decent job, but with the way wrestling is right now, to maximize him and to really do some cool stuff, why would you not do that? He actually, and you probably know this too, but he begged Vince to let him do a cinematic match with The Undertaker, and they just said no, which makes absolutely no sense.
Dude, they ruined that from the beginning. I don't know how you don't start with Sting entering the WWE against Taker. How do you not have him pull mind games on The Undertaker? You know what I mean? The outsider, Stinger. He was the franchise of the WCW. Why is the first move you not make with him against The Undertaker and playing mind games with The Undertaker? I mean, that storyline writes itself. And then you cap it off at a big WrestleMania match.
I have no idea. I put a lot of thought into that over the years. Even if it was like a feud based on respect, like, you're the guy who didn't jump ship, I'm the guy who didn't jump ship, but eventually we knew we had to meet. Like, there's so much you could do. Like, horrible. I mean, I still enjoyed what Sting did. I'm glad he got his WrestleMania moment in front of an audience. He's amazing, but what a wasted opportunity. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was. And I'm glad for Sting. He was on, he got his WrestleMania moment, even though he didn't win the match. He got a really cool moment with the NWO and with D-Generation X facing off. I mean, that's unbelievable. That's a storyline people want to see, wanted to see also. So, that was amazing. And he got inducted into the Hall of Fame because of that. So that's excellent, which makes him a 2-time Hall of Famer now. And now he's in the AEW. Yeah, and I did hear about the cinematic matches, and I'm totally cool. He can do some good stuff. He can put on some good stuff still, So I'm happy with whatever they want to bring. And I want to see him with Darby Allin. Him and Darby Allin are going to do some stuff. I wouldn't mind if they eventually teamed up, where Sting was kind of like his mentor. The way AEW is kind of doing it, they're bringing these old guys in. They're not necessarily wrestling; they're just pairing them with the young guys, and I think that's fantastic. I think that's a great idea, and Sting would go great with Darby Allin.
And even if it's not that Darby Allin's like a true heel, I don't know what you call him. Even if it's like he, at first they feud, he beats the respect into him or something, and then they become, like you said, he becomes like a mentor figure. There's a million things you could do, and I'm confident because they listen to the talent so much. Yeah. I believe they locked in Sting for a longer term contract. So I'm sure that
multi-year deal is what I hear. A multi-year deal, so it's going to be at least 2 years. But I think I saw something. I can't confirm it, but I think I saw upwards of 5 years. He might be with AEW now. I mean, he's there for a while, and him and Darby Allin does those little vignettes and stuff, and they're freaking awesome. there are not many people that can pull those video vignettes off, and he definitely pulls it off. And so does Sting. They're gonna have, if they even, I don't care how they work together, whether they work together or they're against each other in some kind of storyline, they're gonna put on some amazing stuff for us.
Speaking of vignettes and everything like that, I don't know how closely you follow AEW before Sting came in, but what were your thoughts on the Chris Jericho and MJF segment where they were like singing show tunes basically? Did you think it was funny, or do you think it was too corny, or were you kind of into it?
I was, listen, I am not a huge fan of some of those types of things that they put on backstage, because I think that they are corny, or not, like, funny, but not in the way that they tried to make them. But AEW is doing a really good job with all their wrestlers, and I think it's because they're, like you said, they listen to the talent, they let talent do the things that they want to do, and I think that's helping them. I mean, the whole singing thing with MJF, it was weird. It was weird, but it wasn't like so weird. It wasn't weird in the way that, like, oh, I want to turn this off. It's weird. It was like, just like, this is Jericho. If you know anything about Chris Jericho, and MJF seems to be doing, like, I like Chris Jericho more now than I did. I think he's a great senior wrestler. I like what he's doing with Sammy Guevara. I like how he's helping Max MJF. And I think he's just the type of person that some of these guys need. And I think the little show tune dance that they did was good. It was weird, but it was in a good way. It kind of was a throwback to the way that they used to do wrestling in the mid 90s a little bit, when they still used to do those types of vignettes.
I literally went from liking it and laughing to being like, oh my God, this is way too much, to liking it again. Yeah. Then I wasn't sure what was happening. And then by the end, I was like, because I know it's Jericho, like you said, I know he was like, wrestling fans are going to think this. He probably knew what we'd think of it and was like, this is how they're going to react. Half the people will hate it, half will love it. It's going to make everybody talk about it. And here we are 2 months later, and I brought it up. So I liked it because of that, but I was like on that wave of emotion, kind of like you were talking about. Like, I wasn't sure, but it's Jericho, so I know it wasn't something they just threw out to be stupid. They probably put a lot of energy and effort into it, which I is almost, in wrestling, is almost in storytelling in general. Like, that's why Marvel's so much better than DC as far as the films go. They put so much time, effort, and energy in well thought out storylines, weaving everybody together. Every character in AEW seems to have a purpose. And in WWE, there's probably 3 or 4 guys that do, and the rest are kind of just floundering. And I think that's the biggest difference.
Yeah, I agree with you, definitely. And yes, I would also say that that's the difference between Marvel and DC, is Marvel created a universe, and DC continues to hit the reset button on theirs. Every time. Hey, if you liked this episode with Jordan, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, share it out. Also, if you're interested in buying some apparel, check it out at www.bonfire.com/store/JDEDESIGNz to get some JDEDESIGNz, and that's with a Z, to get some t-shirts, sweatshirts, tank tops. That's also where you get the Boiling Point Podcast mug. If you want some Boiling Point Podcast t-shirts and sweatshirts, then go to bonfire.com/theboilingpointpodcast. And if you want to continue watching this episode, you're going to have to switch over to Rumble, because it's time to leave YouTube behind.